Here's a good question that came up during one of my last coaching calls, and that was, what's the minimum number of calls required for a team member to make for the week or the month? And is there a difference between a part-time agent or a full-time agent as far as making those calls? And I thought that was a great question to expand on. I've had a team since 2008, and I've failed through all of this. And although there are going to be some amazing, great answers where some people are going to tell you, or you're going to hear, they need to make 250 calls a week, they need to set 7 appointments, or they need to connect with this many people. I think those are all great, and you should definitely consider whether or not that fits your model. You also have to be careful with the IRS because independent contractors shouldn't be told what to do specifically. There should be minimum requirements for them to get other benefits in the team, right? But just tread carefully there. Here's how I approach it. I think that I'm always looking when I'm hiring, when I'm recruiting, when I'm bringing agents onto the team and into the brokerage, I'm looking for people that have an amazing character. I'm looking in that character, I'm looking for desire to succeed at the highest level in real estate. That desire, the necessity, like to be able to do what needs to get done on a consistent basis over a long period of time. And when you are hiring to certain characteristics like ethical, kind, making sure that the person is hardworking, does the right things to make sure to grow in the environment that they're in with you, and they're honest, and more importantly, they're malleable, right? They're there to learn because they don't know a lot, and they're relying on you for growth. That's part one. We're always looking to hire the right agent for us. And that means for us, we look at this. So this is how I answered the question. Well, I said, it depends. Your business for closing transactions for your team or brokerage, what does that look like for you guys? And for them, it was primarily referrals from past clients and their sphere. And then number two, which happens to be our number two, online leads. Online leads coming from Google PPC, Google Pay-Per-Click, Facebook lead ads, and a few other referral sites like Ojo, OpCity, those type of things. So I said, great. So here is what I want you to do. I want you, number one, to have certain criteria as to how you behave when it comes to the CRM. What CRM are you using, and are you making sure that the tasks are done on a daily basis? If you set up the right training with the right dialogue and the right guidance or coaching on a consistent basis, and you expect them to show up to these, then you say, great, you're trained correctly, you're continually showing up. I'm going to give you the ability to work these online leads. I'm going to give you the ability to work my referrals that I'm getting from my past clients, my sphere. I'm going to quarterback them over to you. And if they're not, right, this is why you have a 90-day period, a 6-month period to see if the people that you're bringing into your environment are working. And so if they don't, then they don't get these referrals from you. They don't get the online leads. If by any chance you already started them, you already have them on this, then don't give them anything new unless they show up. The key to this is you're showing up for them. Hopefully you've built, right? I'm telling the guy I'm coaching, hopefully you've built a team that allows for it to have the right support through staff, the right coaching and guidance, right? The right environment to be able to mold and grow a real estate agent, to be able to say, got it, here's what I'm doing for you. Your job is to build relationships. Your job is to take this lead that's coming through, this new opportunity from A to Z, or here's what it looks like. Hopefully you have that supportive environment. And if you do, then you can look to see, great, now what are my expectations, right? Are my expectations, because I'm sending you 20 online leads a month, am I expecting you to close one of those, right? And they're only Google PPC or Facebook lead ads. So the expectation has to be realistic as well. Knowing that Google PPC, we're looking at typically 1 out of 100 close. And that's not a lot, right? But if you're expecting somebody to close 1 out of every 20, and then you're telling them, hey, what's happening? Why aren't they closing? Right? Then you have a little bit of a skewed outlook, right? So what I suggest is have minimum standards as far as, if you do this, if you make 200 calls, right? If you make 200 calls, you should typically be connecting with 30 people. And out of those 30 people, you should be pre-qualifying or connecting with deeper to see if maybe you can help them further. But you should be looking at about 5, right? Out of the 300, you should be really getting 5 serious people. If you're not, then we've got some work to do. I either have to train you better on dialogue, I have to train you better on tonality, on approach. Something is missing, right? And so it's easy sometimes as leaders to point the finger and say, oh man, these people suck. Everyone sucks at following up. They suck at online leads. They never work. But what's the precedent you're setting? And more importantly, what are your expectations, and are you inspecting those expectations consistently? And are you there to help somebody grow, or are you there to bury them with work so that you can then close the transactions that you need, because all you're interested in is volume? So when you put it like that, and that's how I put it to this other agent, I said, I think you need to take a step back and say, well, why do I have this team in the first place? Is it to develop better real estate agents, to make the consumer experience as smooth as possible? Or is it just so I can make more money? So, and I think once you start answering those questions, you start to identify the reason sometimes that your team isn't working. What are your priorities, right? And for me, I've had a lot of experiences, both good and bad. If I'm looking at the better experiences, I've got one agent on the teams. His name is Mark Rader, and he performs extremely well, right? He's got great character, great work ethic, kind, approachable. He's listened to the things I've told him to do over the long period of time, and I've supported him with the right atmosphere, the right coaching, the right guidance, but he's put a lot of work into this. And he went from being a part-time agent to being scared to being a full-time agent. And then once he was a full-time agent, we made a plan. And I said, hey, I want you to do this. And as the market shifted, I said, hey, Mark, you have the opportunity to build some of the most amazing business. You have the ability to create the most amazing wealth for you over these next couple of years. I just need you to do this. And he did. And he did. And it was the most amazing time financially for him, where he grew. He not only grew financially, he grew mentally. He grew as a real estate agent. So I'm concerned about my real estate agents. I want them to have a career. I want them to be able to grow in this. And it concerns me sometimes that when I see some agents struggling, I'm like, there's something else there. It's not just about, did you make the calls, right? This is how I want you to phrase it. It's not, did you make the calls? Oh my gosh, why didn't you? What's happening here? You should be calling all these leads. All these tasks are overdue, right? Have you called your past clients? Have you door knocked? Did you have an open house? Instead of saying, hey, I noticed that you fell behind over here. Is everything okay? How can I help you? Is everything okay emotionally? You do your best to connect with them at that level, and things open up, and they may come back and say, hey, you know what? No, I'm struggling. Here's what's actually happening. And then you get to the crux of the matter. It's not always what you think it is. It's not always, oh, they're just lazy. It goes much deeper. And it's our job as leaders. It's our job to find out why and help them and give them the environment for growth. Will there be people that it's just not the right time for them and they need to step out of real estate? Of course. Of course. But do your best to make sure that you're not the reason they're actually failing. And sometimes we are. Sometimes we don't give them the things they need to be able to grow in our environment. And sometimes we don't even give them the tools they need internally, emotionally, right? Mentally, to be able to succeed. You give them everything else, like the CRM, the leads, you give them everything. But you don't give them what they need internally to succeed. So that's my answer. There is no cut and dry. You could definitely do 250 calls a week, have these things fall into place, motivate them, have the staff in place, but it's more complicated. So I would suggest you stick to making sure that they're well internally, and then have these guidelines and say, hey, you're going to be getting these leads if you do these other things. If not, let's go back to step one and square one and say, what's actually going on? How can I help you? I want to watch you grow. I want to watch you succeed in this amazing business. What do you guys think? I'm always tweaking this and I'm always alternating it. But I keep on going back to the human aspect of this because we've tracked numbers. We limit the amount of online leads some agents get. We get thousands of leads a month. So we typically limit and say, hey, you can only work with 150 leads at a time for some, right, as they're getting going. And others that have been with me for a long time, they now have assistants and now they have a system. They're starting their own teams within the team. So it's different for everybody. But I think if you want to be able to start, you've got to have a starting point to measure two things. One, the actions that are being taken, number one, right? And then the reason the actions are or are not being taken. And that's when you find out the realness of this. What's going on internally, both good and bad. Like I need to feel amazing in order to make some calls, or I need to have created amazing habits so I can show up even when I don't want to, right? And if I'm not showing up, why am I not showing up? What's going on, right? So measure those two things. Just make sure that you have something set so that you have something to measure. And I think that's going to come down to your team. How does your team function? And where do you want to go? Have you set the vision? Hopefully this helps. Hopefully I didn't create more of a challenge for you, but let me know what you think. I'm always learning along with you as we're growing teams, brokerages, and so many different businesses here. Actually, I have three questions I would love for you to ask your team members just to gauge where they're at. I have them upstairs. I was going over them on my notebook, so let me transfer them over and let's go over them together on a Google Doc. Okay, here they are. 3 questions to ask your team members. Number 1, how do you feel about your current work-life balance? And I said, this question can help you gauge whether they're feeling overworked or stressed. It's an indirect way to inquire about their overall well-being. This way you're not as intrusive, and look, not everyone will completely open up to you from the get-go. So asking them that way can really open up other conversations. Just be sure to listen and don't be there to speak over their concerns. Just listen. That's number 1. Number 2, what's something you've recently achieved that you're proud of, either at work or in your personal life? And you would think, well, that's an interesting question to ask, but there's a tie into this. And I put, this allows them to share positive aspects of their lives, giving you insight into what motivates them and fulfills them, right? Because we're all doing this to find our purpose, to live our purpose. So you need to discover sometimes what the purpose is for the people on your team. What is it? How can you make that better for them? It also opens up the door for them to discuss any recent challenges they've overcome. Sometimes, because I'm a real estate agent and it feels like we're working nonstop. We don't have time to slow down to think about these things. So you're helping them through this. That's question number 2. Question number 3, is there anything you're currently facing that you could use more support with? And this one, it just shows that you're open to supporting them, because sometimes they may think that our team leader's too busy, or they've got a lot on their plate. I don't want to disturb them. I don't want to maybe seem like I can't do things on my own. But you're going to them at this point, right? As a leadership, you're going to them and say, hey, how can I support you? And it also shows that you're attentive to their needs, because I may not be, but because I'm asking the question, it feels like I actually am. And then the other piece to this is it provides an opportunity for them to share any struggles or challenges that they might be experiencing. And that really, to me, is the key. So ask these 3 questions. I've been going over these, or a variety of these 3 questions over the last few years. This is the latest iteration I have. I just put it onto a Google Doc. If you need it, just message me. I'll send it over. But hopefully this helps, right? We're in this as team leaders, as broker owners, as just building this amazing community to help each other. So if you think that you've done something differently that has helped you, I'd love to know more about it. And remember, you've got to show up for people to show up.